Yeah, look, these are incredibly strong numbers. Honestly, I don't think this is a big surprise. We have been seeing ongoing announcements of bigger and bigger investments in AI and data centers coming from pretty much everyone that's in the game, and that includes the startups, the big hyperscalers, so the Microsofts, Googles, and obviously all this sovereign demand coming on top of that. So I think perhaps the new news here was some of these comments around the backlog being even larger than previously thought. You're potentially looking at a further acceleration of revenues for Nvidia. This is all good stuff. Honestly, again, I don't think this is a huge surprise. We know that currently spending on AI infrastructure is enormous, continuing to grow. Usage of AI is continuing to grow. There's no real concerns there. The bigger question, and I think the concerns the market's been having over the last couple of weeks, are whether longer term this turns into a bubble. And I cut my teeth. I started off working back in the late 90s, and I saw the internet bubble firsthand. And very early on, people were pulling out their hair and saying this was going to be a problem. And of course, they were right in the end. The kind of hallmark of a bubble is that you end up overspending on a technology, and then you simply are unable to deliver the revenues and the earnings in the near term that technology promised. And you get a shakeout. And I'll stick my neck out here. I think some of Nvidia's biggest customers will not be around in 3 to 5 years' time. They're going to go bust. It's a business where I think you need to find real revenue generation applications. And that's a lot harder in some ways than developing a really fancy model that works well. And you've got a lot of people developing the same thing. There's a lot of parallel spend. And that's, of course, what's helping Nvidia, because everyone's spending money on kind of the same things. So that's the risk, but that's further down the line, and it's impossible to predict the timing. In the meanwhile, you've got a huge spending boom, and the beneficiaries are the guys supplying the picks and shovels, really, which is Nvidia primarily, and the entire Asia supply chain that Nvidia requires to build these chips.
Right, so I'll give you the opportunity to name and shame because you mentioned it. Look, Jensen Huang has pushed back against the AI bubble narrative, but you just said some of Nvidia's customers could go bust. Who do you think could go bust? Lay it out for me.
Look, I really don't feel I should be naming names here, but there are companies out there. I won't name names, but I think you can guess that are spending money they don't have. With revenues that are pretty minimal, that haven't really figured out how they will end up monetizing all this capital spend. And as you move into a point where you're borrowing money, you're getting vendor financing, including from Nvidia, of course, at some point those revenues need to materialize. And if the market isn't prepared to finance you anymore, you're going to run out of money. And the problem is, we at North of South, we're always looking for pricing power. How are you going to monetize the products that you're developing, the money that you're spending? And it's not entirely clear that some of these companies know how to do this. There will be huge opportunities to monetize AI, and we're seeing it in some companies, of course. But I think the kind of general purpose guys, the guys building big LLMs, there's too many of them. We don't need 5 LLMs globally. There'll be a lot of clever applications that come on top of that. And I'm not sure it's the LLM guys who are going to develop those.
Okay. Kamil, really quickly as well, we've just seen the US Commerce Department authorizing exports of these chips equivalent to 35,000 Blackwell units to G42 here in the UAE and Humane in Saudi Arabia. How significant is this for the regional AI ecosystem?
Yeah, it's huge, of course. The UAE and Saudi primarily have been working incredibly hard to build out their non-oil economy. That is really all they're looking at. How much growth can they generate outside of oil? And they've been pushing into all sorts of areas, including finance, etc. And AI is a big focus for them. And I think that's a sensible thing to do. When you talk to some of these companies here, the kind of G42s and so on, they think they can build a huge compute center, and they can then sell that compute to the global south, to other countries. They, of course, have the capital to invest. They have the relationships with Nvidia and the U.S. government. They're, some of the countries that actually get along well with the current U.S. government. So they're able to use this to build out regional infrastructure, and they want to leverage that infrastructure then to become a global hub for compute. So they need these chips if they want to deliver on that.